right now with tornado coverage. This is the Carolina Weather Group. It is obscenely late. At 2:43 a.m., we have a tornado warning for Newberry County. I have not seen. All right, we're on. Yep, we're on. Okay, very good. All right, I didn't look at my console. Wasn't sure if we were on. So this is a Carolina Weather Group. I'm Jared Smith with James Brierton and Ricky Matthews. We are online live with you. 2:44 a.m. Tornado warning for Newberry County in South Carolina. So this is just along I-26. This is just south of Whitmire. Let's talk about what we've got going on here. I'm going to just make a couple tweaks here to my radar so we can discuss that. So here's the radar. Here's your warning area. This is just outside the town of Newberry, just outside Pomeria. This is taking a little bit of Whitmire. Generally along 26 and 176 around Newberry. This is just outside of the Newberry County Airport. And is again a major issue along 176. Now this is kind of this is one of those cases where this is kind of a questionable shear. This looks very elongated on the radar. This is again, in these tropical environments, not everything is going to look. Not everything is going to have that look, but there is a little rotation across I-26, and this is headed in the general direction of Whitmire. So I'm going to put a storm track on it. And yeah, it would be within Whitmire in about 15 minutes. So very near there. Regardless of the tornado, it looks like there's some very strong winds associated with this. Up to 70 miles an hour detected by the radar. This is about 2,600 feet up. So this will mix down a good bit. This could still mix down some 40 to 50 mile an hour winds, which could definitely bring some trees down. We've already had reports of trees down tonight. I'm going to get this out of chat real quick. 1 second.
Jared, the interesting thing is this is kind of in radar no man's land again, in between basically Columbia and Greenville Spartanburg's radar. So
yeah,
having a little bit of trouble trying to bounce the beam off it, and where the beam is hitting it, it's roughly 3,400 feet up in the air. So it's up there a little bit. It's not the highest tornado I've ever seen, but certainly one that is a little bit harder to see.
Yeah, it's pretty broad. If you look at this, I'll put the NROT on, and it's pretty broad. It's bright. This is
Jared, we have interrupt you real quick because we have a new tornado warning. This is going to be for Lawrence County and Union County in South Carolina.
All right.
This is issued by the Weather Service and GSP, coming out here momentarily. I don't see.
Oh yeah, I think. All right. So they're extending the tornado warning.
I went into GSP's chat and I was like, "Huh, that's weird. Tornado. Oh, okay, there we go." I was like, "Am I in the right chat?" So basically, what we've got going on is 2 tornado warnings now, issued by 2 different Weather Service offices. Let me turn off some of my stuff here. I don't know what we have up radar-wise, but we'll kind of examine it. Unfortunately, there's something called county warning areas with the Weather Service, and basically, once it gets to a certain area, that's all you can see. And so the Weather Service being forced to issue another tornado warning a little bit further upstream. I'm going to switch to a different radar here. We're going to switch
I'll have you back up in a second.
GR2, and we'll zoom on in here. So Whitmire areas towards Cross Anchor, you're in line for this potential tornado. I'm going to load in my roads here real quick as well, Jared, so we can do a little bit of that.
And I think Chris Jackson can join us. So let me. I'm gonna text him. Go ahead, Ricky. Go ahead and.
Nice to see the coordination though between the 2 Weather Service offices. We look at NROT again here and seeing a decent amount of rotation here. In fact, potentially increasing a little bit, although it was stronger a couple scans ago, right when the warning first came out. Let's go back and kind of look at when the warning came out and what everything looked like here on radar. And see where they issued the couplet, and then where the storm advanced up to the north and west. Still a good amount of rotation with it here as it moves across US 176 and we're 121 State Road 121 and US 176 come together just to the south of the Whitmire community. And then this will be heading up into a good portion of Lawrence and Union, which is kind of an unpopulated area. There's not a ton of stuff out here once again. Liking that trend tonight that a lot of these tornadoes, potential tornadoes, are going through areas that aren't really highly populated. That's always a good thing. But of course, some people do live out there. And so you want to take those storms seriously if you do live in those areas. This tornado warning for the southern cell is going to go until 3 a.m. and the Weather Service at GSP issuing theirs until 3:15. Basically, just it's a little bit further north and west, moving about 45 miles per hour. So at a good clip here. We'll zoom out a little bit and I'll show you. This is in kind of its own little line, and if you watch the cells, you can always kind of tell these little tornado cells. They always seem to kind of get their own motion going here. Excuse my yawn. It is a little late into the overnight here. But as a kind of a more heads up, this would be moving up towards the Greenville, Spartanburg area. If it were to hold together, it'd like to take about 45 minutes to an hour to get there. But the main concern right now towards the Whitmire community, where that tornado warning it remains in effect. Potential tornado would be south of there right now, moving to the north and west. We'll turn on NROT and kind of give you the best view of where it would be. Right there, peaking once again with some of these green numbers, which sometimes are indicative of a potential tornado. Looking at CC, not seeing anything right now, but a good strong amount of updrafts here. We look at ZDR and you can see where the updrafts in the storm are, these kind of colored areas. You can see good updrafts going on in the storms, Jared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let me get some rain products out real quick because this is definitely going to be a heavy rain producer too. Anything that's going to be in here is going to be wrapped in rain, and it's dark, so it's not like you're going to see it anyway. Unless you're Chris Jackson, who we're trying to bring in. We're trying to bring Chris in right now, into our hangout to get the ground truth as to what's happening. So again, there's your velocity. There's your velocity switcher right there. The storm relative here, yeah, it's a pretty broad rotation. But if we look at the rainfall rates here, we're looking at last hour. All right, I think we have Chris. Chris,
hey guys,
is that you?
how are y'all?
Good, man. What are you seeing?
All right, so I'm on I-26 coming back into Columbia at the 119 mile marker. Following the tail end of this line, and you guys still got me?
Yes, we got you.
I think you just got me on audio, correct?
Yep.
Actually, I think you guys do have a video stream from me, but you can't see anything because it's dark. But yeah, coming back into Columbia, I'm trying to get everything turned around here. And oh, there we go, all squared away. All right, like I said, coming back into Columbia on I-26 to the 119, I'm following the tail end of this line. You know, I've seen a lot of really light tree damage and stuff down southern Lexington County, and just on this line as it gets north of Columbia. I know you guys were just talking about, you know, some of the rotation on this storm as it moves north of Columbia, and just wanted to see what you guys thought about, you know, the chances for more of this, especially as these storms start to rotate around the circulation north of Columbia.
Yeah, there's certainly a decent amount of some rotation in all these little cells tonight. None that are really too organized, with the exception of that one tornado warned cell. The environment is there, certainly, Chris. It's just hard to say exactly which storm or which individual cell will kind of get its act together and get it going.
Right. Yeah, I'm just trying to play some old school storm chasing and tail end Charlie for storm chasers. You know, stay on the last storm in the line. And, you know, with me being in Columbia right now, you know, falling right in behind this storm, everything's pretty good right now. Keep getting little bursts of lightning, which is really, really, you know, I guess interesting from the meteorological side, because I get this nice little burst of about 5 or 6 lightning strikes, and then, you know, on the radar will show on the velocities, you'll get a little bit of a couplet that wants to tighten up. You know, it might not tighten up in anything significant, but it's just really interesting to see that correlation in real time between the two different sets of data.
Yeah, taking a look at the Columbia radar here now, looking further to the south, and Nothing immediately jumping out at me. There's a lot of storms right in the metro area, which unfortunately is right where the radar is.
Right.
So kind of hard to sample some of those. We'll go one scan up and one tilt up and see if I got anything. And once again, a whole lot jumping out majorly at me. Bouncing back to that storm near the Whitmire community real quick, we'll show you some of the products there. That potential tornado would now be south and west of Whitmire, moving to the north and west. No major communities here. Basically, just kind of ride the Lauren Union County line. Eventually, would hold together, move up in the Cross Anchor community. That'd be in about another 25 to 30 minutes as the storm pushes off towards the north and west. Chris, a question. Well, actually, let's go back down here to Columbia real quick. I think this is probably radar contamination.
Yeah, it looks like there's a lot of it going on right now. You know, the Columbia radar site on radar scope started going kind of funky a few minutes ago, as that line pushed right over the metro area, and you know, ever since then, some of the data I've been getting on radar scope from Columbia is just looked really, really funky. So I don't know if something happened or if it's just a radar scope issue or what.
Well, that's probably a de-aliasing failure. Sometimes we get the velocities will fold over, so to speak. It's a complex. It's complex radaring. It's a little too complex to talk about at 3 a.m. But long story short, sometimes the round trips happen a little bit out of sequence, and the radar data can get confused. Now, Chris, if you run into that, what you can do is switch to just regular base reflectivity, and that should clear that up.
Awesome, I appreciate that.
But
like trying to manage the radar, drive, roads, all that good stuff gets a little tough at times.
Well, if we haven't said it already, Chris, safety first.
Absolutely, without a doubt. I mean, chasing at night is dangerous in itself. Then chasing at night in the tropical system, it just adds another layer to it. So I'm not going to put myself in any kind of compromising position, you know, just to see a tornado. Not worth it.
A couple things of note here. The Weather Service in Columbia, again, they've been very diligent about updating the tornado warnings tonight. And they have updated the warning to position the tornado 5 miles south of Whitmire. That's probably changed since that was issued. Again, as Ricky said earlier, looking a little more southwest of Whitmire now. Still a little bit. There's still a broad circulation here on storm relative velocity. This is moving northwest at 45 miles per hour, so it's very fast moving. Another thing of note, Chris, that you're going to want to be aware of. We've now got I-26 at 126 is flooding. So
I-26 at 126.
I-26 at 126 is apparently flooding.
Awesome. I'm only about 4 miles right down the street, right down the interstate from there. I'm glad you guys told me that.
While we try to get Chris in that position, I could check for any available DOT cameras in that area as well, too, while we continue to monitor as well the tornado situation.
You know, and I'm looking at the rainfall real quick, and let me. So here's 26 at 126, and again, given that we're so close to the radar site, I got to tell you, I don't think that I'm going to get a very good estimate. Truth be told, from the radar there, yeah, it's probably just a little bit too close to get too much usable information. But yeah, there is a roadway flooding. That's all we know. That's all that came across. We don't have any additional details on that. But
awesome. I appreciate the info.
Yeah. Going back to Whitmire and south of Whitmire here, let's pull this back up. We got another scan here. I'm going to just kind of readjusting the storm track as we go. Still a broad rotation there as it is. Let's see. Yeah, it's about to cross the. It's about to cross County. And then it's going to cross into Union County shortly thereafter, pulling away from 176. Again, not a terribly high population density out here. Cross Anchor is going to be the nearest community to be concerned about as it moves northwest at 45.
Checking with a few of our Charlotte friends to see if any of them are online or streaming.
Just me.
Is Union County still in the Charlotte market?
Yeah, last I checked. North Carolina, Union County, North Carolina. So I've got a camera up here, and I'm going to bring it on to the air in just a second. It is Interstate I-26 in the Columbia area, where Jared a moment ago was just talking about those flood reports. It is obviously very dark, but what I'm noticing, and it may literally call me a liar as I pop it up, is that there was no traffic on it. And I want to say there's maybe one set of headlights coming down, which may actually give us the illumination we need, because I want to say those roadways do look obviously pretty wet. I mean, that's not surprising, but it does look like the roadway must be open. I had been watching this camera here for a moment, not seeing any traffic, so I was wondering maybe if they had closed it, but it does seem to be open. But otherwise, it's kind of hard to tell. I guess we'll wait until Chris Jackson gets on scene, but it does look fairly wet.
Yeah, I'd imagine if the water was across the road, they would have shut that down, but yeah, it can always surprise me. It certainly does look wet there, for sure.
If you are just joining us here at the top of the 3 o'clock hour, good morning and welcome to live coverage of the Carolina Weather Group. Tropical Storm Michael producing more tornadic activity in our area. We have one between Columbia and Greenville, Spartanburg as those two benchmarks as the radar comes up on your screen here. You can see they're just kind of straddling Interstate 126, Newberry, Lawrence, Union in South Carolina, those counties, with this tornado warning here now at 3 o'clock on the nose. So good morning to everyone who's tuned in and continuing to monitor the situation with us.
Moving northwest at 50 now. Tornado is located about 15 miles south of Union or near the Whitmire community. Advancing very quickly off towards the northwest. So not a whole lot of time when these storms move into your area to kind of prepare for them. A lot of times our tornadic cells, supercells, things like that, summertime storms will move around 35, 45 miles per hour, sometimes 55. But these are certainly moving pretty quickly, and so there's not a whole lot of time from the warning is issued to the time it is knocking on your doorstep. So Whitmire, the town of Whitmire, not immediately impacted by this tornado. It's on the western side of it. This is going to be crossing over State Route 72 between Whitmire and Clinton in just a little bit, advancing up north and west towards the Cross Anchor community. I would say probably the eastern side of the Cross Anchor community, kind of where State Road 49 and what road is this here? This is State Road 56 come together. A whole lot of, it looks like farmland and kind of a just open land out here across much of southwestern Union County and eastern Lawrence County, which is good news. But this potential tornado moving through there. The last scan we've got in still shows a decent couplet here, a decent little area of rotation. Certainly some stronger winds aloft associated with this. Not seeing any type of debris or anything that would be indicative of some potential tornado popping up. James, do we have any of those tornado tips we can call up here real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Give some people some ideas of, you know, not just this storm, but maybe where you'd want to go in the future if there was a tornado warning issued. Of course, tornado is a very rapidly rotating area of column of wind, and they're caused a lot of times these tropical systems due to some of that wind shear that we see with the tropical systems when they when they move over land. So when a tornado warning is issued, you're going to want to take shelter in that lowest floor interior room. Before a tornado warning is issued, we hope that there's a tornado watch issued, which there is right now across South Carolina. That's kind of a heads up saying, hey, there is the potential for severe weather in the area, and a tornado warning means that it's occurring or expected to occur very soon. We've seen that almost every tropical system that makes landfall spawns at least one tornado. I can't recall the last time we didn't get any tornadoes out of a tropical cyclone, especially in these feeder bands that kind of move in before the core of the system moves in. Sometimes they have a little bit more thunderstorm activity with them, a little bit more of a punch associated with them. So those are kind of the ones that sometimes produce a few more tornadoes than the actual mass of rain does when it moves through. When that moves through, you get some more gusty winds, and there is some discussion going on tonight among some meteorologists and the weather service here whether we are going to see some of those stronger wind gusts a little bit further north and west, maybe up into the Charlotte area. So if you live in the Charlotte area and maybe you're watching us tonight and you don't have your phone plugged in, you probably want to go ahead and do that. Maybe the same thing for your laptop, and expect that tomorrow morning you could lose power for a little bit of time as some of the strong gusty winds move through, and of course heavy rainfall as well. Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, of course, closed on Thursday. UNC Charlotte currently operating on a normal schedule. Have not heard of any other school closings or delays, James, that I know about. Perhaps you've heard of a few, but I think Charlotte Mech is the main one right now.
Yeah, Charlotte Mech certainly the only school in upstate South Carolina. Actually, let me say here that Greenville and Spartanburg schools are still open. So I think a lot of folks are probably, I would imagine, if you are in a position to decide whether or not to open schools today and you have not yet done that, you're waiting on these morning briefings from the National Weather Service, which within the past hour or so, Greenville Spartanburg was specifically saying they were working on getting that all out to all their partners. So we'll probably wait to see, Ricky, if we get more decisions made from organizations here shortly.
Wouldn't shock me at all if we see some calls. I know 4 a.m., 5 a.m. is always kind of that magic hour of which they have to make the decisions because the buses have to get ready, bus drivers got to get the buses ready, stuff like that. So perhaps the tornado watch will also help make those decisions a little bit easier too. The interesting thing is as these storms move off towards the east later today, this tornado threat will likely extend into eastern North Carolina, southeast Virginia, and then coastal South Carolina once again as the core of the storm moves up into that area. So while we're dealing with severe weather potential tonight in the upstate of South Carolina, just west of the Whitmire community, this whole threat will likely be expanded into most of North Carolina, most of coastal South Carolina, and into parts of southeastern Virginia as we go into the later hours of this Thursday. It's 3:05 a.m. right now as we join you with tornado coverage on the Carolina Weather Group Facebook page and all of our streaming platforms as this severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado moves out of Lawrence County, South Carolina, and into Union County, South Carolina, heading towards State Route 49 between Union and Cross Anchor. A decent area of rotation now showing up here. In fact, it's got a little stronger on the last scan. I'm going to switch over to NROT once again, and it's somewhat elongated. And we'll see if we can do a 3D scan. I'm not sure if it's going to pop up here. Can we see that at all, James, or is it still? Nope. Let me get it for you.
And as you are certainly joining us here in these early morning hours, we will let you know that we will be live with tornado warnings just like this throughout the day. I'm also going to be monitoring closely that flash flood situation that we're likely to see as we do get these tropical thunderstorms, these bands as a part of the remnants of Tropical Storm Michael moving through the chunk of what will be Thursday into early Friday. I mean, look at the satellite image here. You can see just the footprint of the storm. It still remains a very large storm, even as the center kind of breaks apart, starts to spread out a little bit as it you know, over the last 24 hours has gone from that category 4 storm that made landfall in Florida to now this tropical storm. It is certainly weaker than it was at landfall, but I think we are still going to be in for a memorable 24 hours here, guys, of obviously a tornado threat, but also that flash flooding, something we're going to have to watch very closely.
Yeah, I've got one of our 3D scans pulled up here. We're seeing a whole lot. There's not a ton of strong rotation with this system in the upper levels, and the rotation that is there only goes up a couple thousand feet. These storms are not historically very tall thunderstorms. These are what we usually call low-topped supercells as they move through, and so they don't have a ton of upper level development to them. The storm that's moving through South Carolina right now only goes up to approximately say 15,000 feet, more like 10,000 feet, and that's about it where that potential tornado would be located. So all these winds and the wind shear that is causing these potential tornadoes is in the very lowest levels of the atmosphere. One good thing that we're seeing is the lack of any TDS signature showing up. What TDS is a tornado debris signature, which is a measurement of not just rain, not just meteorological things in the air that radar is bouncing off of, but potentially non-meteorological targets, biological targets, potentially pieces of homes, pieces of buildings, trees, leaves, stuff like that being tossed up in the air by tornadoes' winds. these tropical tornadoes usually will loft those, and if there's a tornado on the ground, you can pretty much see it most of the time with a TDS, a good about 80% of the time or so as these storms move through. So tornado warning continues for just about another couple of minutes here until 3:50
Yeah, and
a.m.
I'll note that I think the Newberry portion has fallen off, so I think we're left right now with just Lawrence and Union counties.
Yep, that's correct.
An all clear there for the southern areas, and the tornado warning continuing for portions of Union County and portions of Lawrence County. Looks to me, guys, like pretty much the storm has moved out of Lawrence County and is now pretty much into Union County exclusively. I would say it's right there on the county line and advancing up towards the north and west pretty quick. So I would give the all clear for anyone in Lawrence County. It's more of Union County that would be needing to be a little concerned about this storm. It'll be interesting to see if the Weather Service and GSP decides to extend this. It would be getting into Spartanburg County if they do, which ironically is not in the tornado watch. Always seems to happen like that. But
one of like 4 counties not in the tornado watch.
Yeah, 4 counties, the entire state of South Carolina. We'll see if they want to extend that or not. They'll probably do it here in the next couple of minutes. If so,
I mean, we had those tornadoes in Hilton Head before we had the watch, right? So just a good reminder to everybody: the watch is only guidance.
Seems like, especially here in North Carolina, it's like, oh, there's weather. Now we should issue a watch.
And marginal risk days are really high risk days.
Okay, that's true.
Chris Jackson, Chris sent us a picture in our internal chat, and James, I don't know if you want to punch that up, but it's at I-20 in Broad River. It's very diffuse. It's very, I'm curious what you guys make of this.
I'm not making much of it yet, but I'll let Ricky weigh in.
Working on pulling it up here.
Yeah, I'll have it up on the air here momentarily too. As everyone knows, Chris Jackson is out chasing right now, and so he is taking a look at certain things. Here it is. So I think what the point is, right, is that we've got this little area in the cloud here that's dipping down ever so slightly.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of low-hanging clouds, and always hard to tell with these tropical systems. I've tried to chase some of them too, and the past, and boy, I tell you what, there's a bunch of scud that's associated with them because there's so much moisture hanging down. So this would be an I-20, he said. So this would be I-20 right here.
Yeah, I don't see much.
Yeah, and unfortunately for us too, the radar stuff is kind of stuck in between an area of hard to see data. But you know, all these storms can spin up little tornadoes pretty quickly. So Chris has an eye on that one down towards Columbia, so we'll let him keep an eye on that. And if anything pops up, he'll let us know, or if any warning is issued, we'll let you guys know as well.
Here we can actually take a look here at another DOT camera. This is right at I-26, at that I-26 flyover. You can see a decent amount of cars on the road for 3 o'clock in the morning. So we were checking out some reports of flooding. Nothing that we can detect yet on DOT cameras, but certainly Chris will let us know if he spots anything as well, too. Otherwise, again, if you are just joining us, we're continuing to monitor a tornado warning for Lawrence and Union counties in South Carolina. Although really the threat at this point, Ricky Matthews is telling us, is for Union, I think it was, right? Lawrence has been kind of cleared out of this, Ricky?
Yeah, I would say the primary threat now moving into Union County, South Carolina, heading towards the Cross Anchor community, which is technically in Spartanburg County, but right there on the Spartanburg Union County line. Taking a look at some of the velocity products once again, certainly a decent looking couplet here. I'm really interested to see what the next scan shows to kind of pick out stuff here with this warning. It's a strong area of rotation, especially for tropical cyclones. About 35 knot winds coming that way, about 30, so about 30 gate for shear, 60 knots gate for gate.
It's a lot of math for 3 o'clock in the morning.
It sure is. Next scan that came in, weakened just a little bit. Also interested to see the next CC scan.
Yeah, and while we're waiting on that, I want to pop this camera up, showing water that is being pumped right now through some tributaries there in the heart of Columbia. And the reason I'm showing this right now is because we are just barely into the start of this, you know, tropical rain, and we can already see what it is doing. We looked at this camera, guys, during one of our earlier shows, and it was not yet doing this. So we're already beginning to see that that runoff here, and that's why we do have that flash flood threat that will be continuing for much of North Carolina and South Carolina as we continue through today. Matter of fact, I can go ahead and pop it up here. This is updated from not too long ago when we got the 2 a.m. update from the National Hurricane Center. You can see everything in red there does have a pretty moderate chance of seeing flash flooding, and so that's because we still have all of that saturation in the soil from Florence. We've had rain the past few days in the forecast. We obviously have some terrain, higher elevations that's at work here, and as you can already see in this camera from the USGS there in Columbia just before it went offline, we do have, of course, more moisture coming in with the remnants here of Tropical Storm Michael.
All right,
guys, we have a new tornado warning. Yep.
Jinx.
Sorry, James, we're so eager. But as Jerry was saying, new tornado warning in effect now. This is going to be for portions of Union County, Spartanburg County, for that same storm that we were tracking, moving off towards the north and west. This is a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado about 11 miles southwest of Union, or 5 miles west of the Rose Hill State Park, moving northwest at 40. Radar indicated tornado. Of course, tornadoes are very difficult to see at night, as we've been talking about with Chris. Hard to see out chasing, hard to kind of pick out what is going on sometimes. But we're going to switch over to the radar once again. And what we're looking at is this one little area right here, just the southeast of Cross Anchor, so down to the right on your screen, is where that potential tornado would be. On my NRRT product, you can kind of pick it out a little bit easier. Not picking up on anything debris-wise, but the Weather Service is deciding that there's enough there to keep this tornado warning going, especially if you look at some of the upper tilts, guys. I didn't look at this yet, but look at some of the upper tilts here. You can see it. It's got a good mesocyclone or an area of rotation all the way up through several thousand feet in the storm. While the lowest level may not have some strong rotation at the surface, and it may not be producing a tornado right now, it has the potential to, especially as it moves to the north and west, because of the environment that's in place today across South Carolina, with the remnants of Tropical Storm Michael approaching the area.
So to confirm, Ricky, this is the same area of rotation. It's just continuing to move as opposed to having a new area of concern.
Correct. Yeah, it's the same area of rotation, same storm we've been tracking, moving north and west towards Cross Anchor, and then up towards, this is going to be State Highway 56, where 56 and 49 come together in the Cross Anchor community. If you leave Cross Anchor going north, maybe you're heading towards Spartanburg, or the Pauline community. And some of those businesses between those areas, not a whole lot through there, it looks like, but some of those spots in between there, that's where this potential tornado would be tracking.
And in terms of eyes on the ground, we don't have any DOT cameras available to us in that area until it actually gets to Interstate 85. So we'll have to continue to rely on radar and the occasional storm spotter like Chris Jackson himself, who are out in the area. He right now is in Columbia, but the National Weather Service will let us know if any of their other partners are in that area and happen to relay any information that'll be shared among the community.
Yeah, it looks really broad. You know, I think I've got this up here. It's definitely becoming. Definitely looks tilt up. I'm not gonna lie. I put my product on there. I think there's you know, I look at my and rot product, and there's actually something better over around Whitmire, but something a little broader over around Whitmire. But of course, I'm using Columbia. Couple things to note real quick. The entire state is no longer under a tornado watch. We've had a few, as the main rain shield has started to move into South Carolina. We've seen some counties drop from that tornado watch. So Charleston just dropped, Allendale, Beaufort, Colleton, Hampton, and Jasper. So the tornado threat in those areas has ended, or is significantly diminished. Let me put it that way. Never say never. And the tornado watch for Aiken, Bamberg, Burnwell, Edgefield, McCormick, and Saluda counties has been canceled. So again, as the main rain shield begins to work its way in, that tends to kind of shut down that instability that you see when you get some of these more isolated storms. And they can't, not as isolated inside this main rain shield, and so that will bring the tornado threat down, but that does not stop the straight line wind threat. So so some trimming on the tornado watch is, you know, it's welcomed, but still anywhere, you know, just anywhere, you know, Berkeley, Charleston, Dorchester, all the way up I-26, including where we have the tornado warning. Very near, looks like this is very near Woodruff now. There's a couple areas. I mean, Ricky, I don't know. Are you looking from GSP?
Yeah, I'm looking off the GSP radar.
Yeah, that might be my problem.
Yeah, the primary thing I see on the GSP radar is still that area near Cross Anchor. Nothing else is jumping out at me.
Well, that really, you know, again, I think that really speaks to the shallow nature of these storms today, and just how, you know, and just to the overall difficulty of detection of tropical tornadoes just in general. We had a show with Roger Edwards from the Storm Prediction Center talking all about tropical tornadoes, and there were some fascinating things in there. But the most important thing is that they're a gigantic pain in the butt. So that's the scientific term.
You can see here on the regional radar view of what we were talking about, trimming back that tornado watch here, as that band of rain starts to push into kind of the core of what is now tropical storm Michael, pushes into upstate South Carolina. You can see some of these wind gusts too. I'm going to stop my data, and we'll just kind of look at some of these wind gusts on the map if we can. Where did my MEDAR data go? There we go. Let's try that one. So some of these wind gusts we've got coming in, gusts to 21 here in the Columbia area, down towards Louisville, Georgia. Wind gust to 45 knots, which is over 50 miles per hour. We've got a gust to 46 there, over 50 in Savannah, gusting over 50, gusting over the 35 miles per hour in Augusta. And then you can really clearly see the circulation, and starting to see a circulation now moving into parts of North Carolina with the winds, and South Carolina here especially, that counterclockwise rotation of areas of low pressure stretching all the way to the Outer Banks. Look at that, all the way towards Hatteras. You can see the winds coming out of the east-southeast, areas towards Wilmington, winds coming out of the southeast. And then you go around the backside of the system towards Atlanta, winds coming out of the northwest. So one big spinning spiral system as it pushes off towards the north and east. What looks to happen here through the next couple of hours is that big band of rain is going to push into most of upstate South Carolina and push into most of the Charlotte metro area, bringing heavy rainfall and the potential of some gusty winds. Could see some wind gusts up to 40, 45 miles per hour across the Charlotte area, if not a little stronger in parts, kind of scattered about. What happens is these little cells form, or these little bands form and move through, and they bring down some of the gusty winds that are associated with these tropical cyclones. Starting to see the heavy rainfall as well move across the mountains of North Carolina. And as you saw there on the radar data, you can see how everything's kind of pushing right at the mountains. And so it almost acts as a little bit of a fire hose per se. The moisture goes up, hits the mountains, and well, when it hits the mountains, it's got to go up. It's forced up, and that's why we see a lot of times these heavy rainfall events across western North Carolina. So that'd be something we watch. One of our panel members, Scotty Powell, will be watching that across the foothills of North Carolina, and to see if anything is going to go on there in terms of flooding, or if there's any type of heavy rainfall totals that are reported across that area. Tell you what, GSP getting hit pretty hard now by some thunderstorm activity, some heavy rainfall certainly moving through Greenville. Wind gusts right now up around 24 knots, a little over 27 miles per hour. Some gusts at Spartanburg Airport over 25 miles per hour as well. And south there towards the Donaldson Airport in Greenville, wind gust over 25 miles per hour as well. We'll take a look at the rotational products. If you've been watching tonight, you've kind of seen us show this a few times. It gets very messy towards Columbia, but what I want to show you is kind of how these bands have moved through South Carolina. Give me a minute to get the data kind of loaded in, and you're going to see all these little yellow and orange and black lines pop up here. These are the rotational tracks of these storms as they've moved through South Carolina tonight. Each little individual thunderstorm is spinning just enough, and these tornado warnings have come out at certain times, especially when they start to peak. Little red dots show up. We'll zoom into Newberry here, and you can see where the tornado warning was issued and where it kind of correlates to that rotational track. Let me stop it once it gets to the right point here. So there's the tornado warnings that came out. Let me go back in time. And look when the tornado warning comes out, right where it peaks on the rotational tracks between Prosperity and between Prosperity and Newberry there where it peaked. So interesting to see some of these products showing the rotation tracks pretty well across South Carolina tonight. What we'll be watching for, I think, over the next couple of hours is heavy rainfall moving into areas of Columbia once again, areas of Greenville seeing the heavy rainfall now. You can see the rain coming down on our South Carolina DOT camera in Greenville there along I-85. Heavy rainfall coming down, leading to some ponding of the water on the roads, leading to some bad driving conditions outside across the area. This entire band of rain is rotating slowly up into portions of Rock Hill and then into the Charlotte area. It's going to be a wet commute in the Charlotte area tomorrow morning. Keep that in mind as you give yourself maybe a little extra time. You can see the wind also blowing around here. Some of the trees in Greenville now on our tower cam that we have compliments of the United States Geological Survey. Thanks to them for providing that tonight to us to show to you guys as the winds do start to gust a little bit in the Greenville, Spartanburg area. Looking back at the radar, looking back at what we've got going on with this potential tornado warning here, I'm going to switch back to my traditional radar view. Let me stop this real quick, and I will share my GR screen instead. This is going to be, once again, the Greenville-Spartanburg radar. Very messy radar presentation here. It's going to take a moment kind of to sort through this and try to pick out where the couplet would be. It would be right here, right to the north of Cross Anchor, if there was anything there. And it's a very messy presentation. You can sort of see what they're warning for. It's this mesocyclone here. My assumption is they're probably going to either let this warning ride till the end, which goes till 3:45 for about another 15, 16, 18 minutes or so here. Or they may even cancel it early. I'll be interested to see what happens. Sometimes, though, these systems can weaken a little bit and then spin right back up quickly. These are very low-topped thunderstorms, and so it's not like you have to support a huge thunderstorm of 40, 50,000 feet. You can get these storms spinning very quickly, and sometimes they can spin up these tornadoes rather quickly, too, without a whole lot of warnings. So tornado warning continuing for Spartanburg County from the Roebuck community down towards Moore, Pauline, Woodruff, Emory, Cross Anchor right now, where the potential tornado would be located, moving to the north and west, roughly around 50 miles per hour. So if you're in Spartanburg, if you're in Roebuck, if you're in Moore, south of the city of Spartanburg, go ahead and think about what you may want to do. Think about having a plan in place and knowing what room in your home you would go to in the event of a tornado. The safest spots are always those center portions of your home, away from windows, away from outside influences, doors, windows, things like that that can be blown in by the wind in a tornado. You're going to want to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. If you live in a mobile home, they're great for low-cost living. They're are not so great during tornadoes or even tropical storms for that matter. So as these strong winds come through tomorrow morning, you may just want to go hang out with a friend for a little bit who may live in a more kind of site-built structure. Because as these storms push through, sometimes they can bring some strong gusty winds with them, and mobile homes are not where you want to be. Honestly, Jared, looking at the radar presentation, looking at the everything off the GSP radar here, I'm not seeing a whole lot that's really concerning me anymore with this storm. Everything seems to have kind of weakened, and there you go.
Yep.
They just dropped
The warning's gone. That's it.
So, it's nice when everyone agrees on what we're seeing here. So tornado warning has been canceled for Spartanburg County, no longer in effect as the area rotation has weakened and no longer poses a threat of a tornado. Just remember that tornado watch, meaning conditions are favorable for tornadoes, remains in effect until 7 a.m. for a large portion of South Carolina. And tornado warning, meaning tornadoes are either imminent or has been spotted or indicated on radar, has been canceled. But remember the difference between a watch and a warning as we go over the next little bit. So
before we sign off, Ricky, I just want to show everybody on our HRRR, one of our rapid refresh models, kind of what we're in for the next few hours or so to kind of convey that storm threat you were just talking about, but also the winds a little bit. So this is a simulated radar look. You can see here Tropical Storm Michael as it makes its way out of Georgia into South Carolina and into North Carolina. We're making our way now into this afternoon, Thursday afternoon. You can see just the amount of rain, the intensity there as it makes its way. I think almost every square mile of the Carolinas is going to have some impact from this. So that was just a brief look at simulated radar. But I wanted to show, because I saw some discussion about this before too, so in addition to rain, in addition to flooding, in addition to tornadoes, we also have a wind threat. And so here's that same time frame, but now we're looking at a visual representation of winds. And you can see here, not only do we have very significant winds back along where Jared is in Charleston, but even here on this model run on the western side of the eye, you can see it back across upstate South Carolina into the Charlotte metro area. You know, estimates of 50, 60 mile per hour winds. So, you know, we currently have right now in a lot of these places a tropical storm warning, and that does extend into places like Raleigh, where you can see here that this particular model estimates they could see again 50 to 60 mile per hour winds as we head into late Thursday, early Friday. That tropical storm warning right now is not technically in effect for Charlotte and Mecklenburg County. We'll wait to see if that changes, guys.
Yeah, it's a weird system, because what's going to happen is it's going to undergo basically a transition from a tropical cyclone to a non-tropical cyclone. It's going to interact with that front that's coming into our area. And so what's going to happen is it's going to undergo baroclinic processes, and it'll stop feeding off of those warm waters, which is all it doesn't have anymore, and start kind of feeding off of the temperature differences that exist between the water and the atmosphere it's in. And so that could actually cause it to strengthen a little bit as it moves through portions of South Carolina and North Carolina. To be honest, that wouldn't shock me too much, James, just because of kind of the process it's undergoing. It's just very hard to predict exactly when that'll happen and how much. And so I think that's a lot of the debate going on now. The folks at the Weather Service office trying to figure out how to make the call there on whether they're going to extend these tropical storm warnings north and west. It's kind of been the talk in the meteorological community of whether, you know, the storm would do that, whether the storm would come a little bit further north and west. Some models showing that, other models showing it going a little bit further to the south and east. We're kind of more in a nowcasting scenario now, and so models, with the exception of the HRRR and the NAM3, you know, not as necessary. HRRR does a great job in the short term usually, as does the NAM3, so we'll want to keep an eye on those. But just looking at the trends tonight and seeing some of those gusts still 30, 40, 50 at times miles per hour, would not shock me to see that tomorrow across parts of North Carolina.
Yeah, what I have up on the screen right now is just a visual representation of all of those bulletins. That's the red one we're talking about. That's the tropical storm warning that you can see stretches from the coast inland, just shy of places like Atlanta, Georgia, or Charlotte, North Carolina, but does encompass, again, metropolitan areas like Raleigh, North Carolina. There's a lot of play here. The forecast is still something we'll have to let to be seen. And, you know, I think back to Superstorm Sandy, and one of the main reasons it got the Superstorm name was because it technically wasn't a hurricane anymore. But it's like, all right, we can debate these scientific terms until we're blue in the face, or we can just communicate in ways that people will understand us, and we'll wait to see exactly how this plays out over the course of the next 24 hours.
Mm-hmm. Looking at a
That's obviously not directed at you, Ricky.
Oh, no. I was glancing at some model data here, posted in one of our storm spotter groups. A good amount of vertical motion going on here with this storm, what we call a mega, and a very interesting wind shift in the wind profile for the area later today. So this is interesting stuff, interesting meteorology. You kind of got to sit down and digest it, diverse it a little bit to understand exactly what's going on here. But bottom line for everyone in the public is that, hey, there could be some wind tomorrow, and it could cause some problems. So we'll sum it up with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we'll probably end up doing now is leaving radar up on the screen, leaving some data up on the screen, taking a short break for us here at the Carolina Weather Group so we can go grab some coffee or some water or whatever it may be, because I think we do have a long day ahead of us. So we do thank you for tuning in this very early in the morning. We will be back as conditions warrant. So if you have not already, please like, subscribe, and sign up for those notifications on Facebook or YouTube or whatever it may be, so that when we do come back live again, and I anticipate we'll be back before we know it, you can be notified that live coverage has resumed. Any other closing thoughts, Jared or Ricky?
I'm good.
Okay.
No, at this point, you know, again, as the center of the storm gets closer and closer, you're going to get those winds are going to come up a little bit more, and so those gusts are going to start coming up. We've had a few tropical storm force gusts now in Charleston, so when the tornado threat will again kind of it will shift northeast, but the straight line damaging wind, you could still get some power outages, you could still get some trees down. So not over until it's over, folks.
That's absolutely right. For now, James Brierton along with Ricky Matthews and Jared Smith and Chris Jackson. We'll see you back here later on today on the Carolina Weather Group.